Hi everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Malice in the Mitten. I am your host, Tracy Preston, along with my bestie, Christine Mulligan. Hey, Christine.
Hey, Trace. Hey, everybody. All right, well, what are we getting in today? What are you telling me about?
A murder plot that literally started with a cup of tea.
Okay, well, we're going to spill the tea about some tea.
Yeah, we are.
Conundrum.
That's right. And you just wait, it gets way crazier. So, are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's spill some tea.
All right, here we go. Winter has a way of telling the truth. It settles over a town like Grand Rapids. Quiet, deliberate. As if the snow itself remembers every secret buried beneath it. In 1916, the city burned bright with industry. Furniture factories, timber fortunes, and the comfortable sigh of middle-class stability. But in a tiny two-story home on the northeast side, where lace curtains whispered against frosted glass, and a dining table was always set just so, something poisonous was brewing. Not the kind that slithered from the back alleys. No. This poison wore pressed skirts and a respectable hat. It sat politely at church. It smiled over teacups. And it waited. This is the story of the Pecks of Grand Rapids and the scandalous murder plot that turned a quiet home into a slow-moving execution chamber. Content warning. This episode contains discussion of poisoning, domestic abuse, and attempted murder. Listener discretion is advised. The family that looked like everyone else. Grand Rapids in the mid-1910s was a city proud of itself. It had money, it had manners, and it had families, respectable ones, who followed rules and stayed in their lane. The Peck family was one of them. The players? J. Stanley Peck, 36, a modest, hard-working furniture finisher at Imperial Furniture Company. He was mild, quiet, a classic early century Michigan provider. Mary May Peck, his wife, 34, energetic, restless, often described as nervous or high-strung by neighbors. Minnie Peck, well, she was Me's mother, the force of the household, controlling, manipulative, and deeply possessive of her daughter. And then there were the whispers of another man, a so-called doctor, a drifter with a medical kit and more confidence than credentials, a man named Albert Sweet, a man who, according to Tobin T. Buhk's research, left a trail of sickness, obsession, and manipulation that followed him across the Midwest. But we'll get to him. First, we must step inside the Peck home in the winter of 1915. The house with a closed door. The Pecks lived at 1527 Eastern Avenue Northeast, a simple frame house that looked like all the others on the block. Neighbors described it as unremarkable, neat, and always smelling of boiled potatoes. Inside, though, tensions simmered. Stanley Peck was sick, all the time. Stomach pain, cramping, vomiting, dizziness, episodes that would come and go like waves. Neighbors watched him grow thinner each month. He missed work shifts. He looked haunted. And each time he collapsed, one thing was constant. He had eaten something prepared by his wife or mother-in-law. According to Buhk's research in Poisoning the Pecks, Minnie Peck had a ritual around the kitchen. She kept visitors out. She guarded the stove, and she served Stanley in a way that seemed less like caregiving and more like control. She spooned out his meals, she poured his tonics, and she insisted he needed strengthening medicines that only she oversaw. And she would watch him swallow. A city of appearances. Grand Rapids took pride in propriety. It was a city where gossip ran faster than the streetcar lines, and where a woman like Minnie could thrive. Minnie was known for her domineering personality, her obsession with her daughter May, and her distrust bordering on hatred of Stanley. She believed Stanley held May back. She believed he wasn't ambitious enough. And according to witness statements, she believed May deserved someone better. Someone like Dr. Sweet. Who was Sweet? Well, not a licensed doctor, not a stable man, not even reliable. But he had charm. He had confidence. And he had a traveling medical kit with vials of morphine, atropine, and chloroform. According to Buhk, Sweet drifted into the Pecks orbit sometime around 1914 to 1915, offering medical advice to Minnie, who quickly became enamored with his authority. And May, well, she became enamored with him. The triangle. Stanley Peck was married to May. May was emotionally tethered to her mother. Minnie became devoted to Sweet. Sweet became entangled with May, and together they created a storm. Two women driven by resentment and fantasy. One fraudulent doctor driven by ego and opportunity, and one man, the obstacle in the way. By early 1916, a plan began to form. It was slow, it was calculating, it was layered. Poison was chosen for 3 reasons. 1, it was accessible through Sweet. 2, it could mimic natural illness. And 3, it allowed plausible deniability. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment crime. This was a slow burn execution, a murder in chapters. The first doses. According to trial testimony and Buhk's meticulous reconstruction, the poisoning began slowly. Sweet supplied Minnie with compounds he called digestive powders, nervine tonics, intestinal cleansers. In reality, they contained morphine, atropine, and sometimes chloroform derivatives. Minnie began administering them in soups and coffee, medicinal teas, and occasionally health tonics she mixed herself. Stanley's symptoms matched documented morphine poisoning, constricted pupils, severe stomach cramps, shallow breathing, periods of confusion. But every time he declined, Minnie claimed she was treating him. Sweet reinforced the lie, diagnosing Stanley with everything from gastric troubles to nerve exhaustion. And May? Well, she played nurse. Neighbors recalled her saying, quote, "Stanley's got another spell. Mother and I are tending to him." What they didn't say was that they were tending him toward a grave. The city takes notice. By spring 1916, people noticed. Stanley's co-workers grew concerned. He looked jaundiced, weak, barely functional. Sometimes he collapsed during work hours. A foreman noted, quote, "He came in shaking, sweating, like he was dying." Yet Minnie insisted nothing was wrong, except Stanley himself. Rumors circulated that he had a bad constitution, or male troubles, or stomach disease. Buhk notes that Minnie even told Sweet that Stanley wouldn't be with them long. Sweet didn't object. Instead, he provided her with more vials. The night of the tonic. One evening in late spring, Stanley consumed one of Minnie's specially prepared tonics. He became violently ill, so ill that neighbors considered getting a doctor. But Minnie insisted she already called someone, Albert Sweet. Sweet examined Stanley, checked his pulse, held up a lamp to his pupils, then quietly, according to testimony, quote, "He's near the end. It's only a matter of time now." Who says that about a man still breathing? Unless that's exactly what you expect. Unless that's what you want. An unlikely hero. But the plan hit an unexpected snag. Stanley's own physician, Dr. L.C. Butterfield, became suspicious. Butterfield had been treating Stanley for months, and he noticed a pattern. Stanley got worse every time he received a home remedy. He improved when Minnie wasn't involved. Butterfield had one theory: poison. But he needed proof, and fate was about to hand him the opportunity. The day everything changed. One morning in June 1916, Stanley collapsed so violently after a meal that even Minnie couldn't hide the severity. Butterfield was summoned. He examined Stanley, his shallow breathing, his pinpoint pupils, and his falling pulse. And he asked just one question: what has he consumed? Minnie deflected. May avoided eye contact. Butterfield opened the household medicine cabinet and found vials, unlabeled, half full. Suspicious. And most importantly, he found Sweet's traveling doctor kit hidden behind towels. Butterfield demanded the police. Minnie tried to intervene, and Sweet fled. And Butterfield did what likely saved Stanley's life. He forced an immediate gastric wash right there in the Peck home. Stanley survived. Barely. But the secret was out. A crime had surfaced, and Grand Rapids was about to erupt. The Man Who Ran. When Dr. L.C. Butterfield uncovered the vials, the powders, the tinctures, the morphine derivatives, the room changed. Minnie stiffened. May paled, and Albert Sweet bolted for the door. Witnesses reported he, quote, left like a frightened fox, coat half buttoned, bag under his arm, running down Eastern Avenue before anyone could grab him. Sweet had run before, from Ohio, from Indiana, from deaths, from accusations, and now from murder. Grand Rapids police issued a notice immediately. Find Albert Sweet. Question urgently. But the women? They stayed, and their stories began to unravel. The police arrived. Detectives arrived at the Peck home within the hour. Butterfield met them with the vials in hand, his voice controlled but burning with suspicion. Inside, Stanley lay in bed, ashen, sweating, barely conscious. Minnie hovered protectively. May trembled near the doorway. When questioned, Minnie insisted, quote, we only ever tried to help him. But May cracked first. In a soft, shaking voice, she whispered, Mother, maybe we should tell them. Minnie's glare was sharp enough to cut glass. The detectives separated them, and little by little, the truth surfaced. The confessions, not quite, but enough. May didn't confess to murder. Well, not outright, but she revealed. Sweet supplied remedies. Minnie administered them. She believed Sweet was a trained physician and that they thought Stanley would not recover. According to Tobin T. Buhk's reconstruction, May admitted that Sweet often spoke of how easy it would be for certain men to die in their sleep, especially with the right mixtures. But Minnie denied everything, but the evidence did not. Police recovered vials containing morphine compounds, atropine powders, liquid chloroform mixtures, dosing spoons, Sweet's medical bag, and most damning, Butterfield's professional assessment that Stanley had been poisoned over a period of months. This wasn't an accident. This was an operation. It was an operation. And there were 3 primary suspects: Minnie Peck, May Peck, Albert Sweet. The arrests. Within 48 hours, Minnie was arrested for attempted murder. May was arrested as an accomplice. Sweet was hunted across state lines. Newspapers erupted. Grand Rapids Herald, June 1916, quote, Society, Women, and Poison Plot. Husband near death. The Grand Rapids Press, Physician or fraud? Man sought in Peck poison scandal. The city feasted on the story. Respectable women, a fraudulent doctor, a middle-class home turned sinister, and a man still fighting for his life. The man at the center, Stanley speaks. Once Stanley regained enough strength to talk, detectives interviewed him. His voice was weak, but his words were clear. Quote, I trusted them. I trusted them all. He described repeated episodes after meals, May insisting he drink tonics, Minnie forcing medicine on him, Sweet examining him at odd hours, and one night where he felt sure he wouldn't wake up. Stanley didn't want to believe his wife or mother-in-law would ever harm him. He couldn't accept it. But the pattern was undeniable. The community explodes. In 1916, Grand Rapids was a city where what happened in your home was everyone's business. Neighbors talked on porches. Gossip drifted across white picket fences like smoke. Some said Minnie always seemed too attached to May. Others whispered May had eyes for that sweet fellow. But the loudest rumors suggested motive. Minnie despised Stanley. May wanted out. Sweet wanted money and influence. And together, they convinced each other Stanley was a burden. Buhk's research highlights something chilling. That Minnie believed poison was a clean solution. No guns, no blood. Just a death that looked like illness. A woman's method, she allegedly called it. The trial prep. Prosecutors built their case with medical testimony, chemical analysis of the vials, witness statements, Sweet's pattern of fraud, Minnie's controlling behavior, and May's emotional entanglement with Sweet. While the defense argued misdiagnosis, coincidence, unreliable science, and family misunderstanding. But the turning point came from Sweet's eventual capture. The capture of Albert Sweet. Sweet was found in Kendallville, Indiana, attempting to flee further south. Police arrested him on the platform, his medical bag still in hand. Inside, morphine, atropine, opium tablets, chloroform, and a notebook with dosing notes. Sweet protested, claiming, "I'm a doctor. I was helping them." But his lack of license said otherwise. The trial of the century, Grand Rapids edition. The courthouse overflowed. People lined the hallways, desperate for a seat. The prosecution argued. Minnie masterminded the plan. May supported it emotionally and practically. Sweet provided the poison. Stanley was slowly being killed, and only Butterfield's intervention saved him. The defense argued no intent, miscommunication, poor medical understanding. Sweet's remedies were misinterpreted. Minnie was only trying to help. May's emotional state became a focal point. She appeared fragile, shaky, torn between loyalty and guilt. Sweet performed. He charmed. He argued. He claimed innocence. He presented himself as a misunderstood medical genius. And Minnie? She sat stone-faced, cold, unmoved. The verdicts. After weeks of testimony, Albert Sweet found guilty of practicing medicine without a license, sentenced, but not for murder. The poisoning charge was difficult to nail because Sweet didn't administer the doses personally. And Minnie Peck found guilty, sentenced to 7 to 15 years at the Detroit House of Correction. Judges cited her as the dominant force of the plot. And May Peck, well, found not guilty of attempted murder, but guilty of complicity lesser charges. Her youth, emotional vulnerability, and Sweet's influence played into the verdict. May walked free after a short detainment, but her reputation in Grand Rapids was never recovered. The aftermath. Stanley Peck survived, but he left Grand Rapids shortly after the trials, seeking a quieter life away from the town that had watched his near murder unfold. May moved back with relatives, her marriage destroyed. She never rebuilt her life fully. Minnie served her sentence and attempted to return to civilian life, but found herself shunned. And Sweet? Well, he drifted again. His trail fades, scattered across small towns where he attempted to start over under new names. But the memory of the Peck case stayed anchored in Michigan history, because it wasn't just a crime, it was a betrayal. Slow, deliberate, intimate. A murder attempt committed not by a stranger in the night, but by the people Stanley believed loved him. In the end, poison is the quietest kind of malice. It doesn't shout, it doesn't break windows or leave footprints in the snow. It hides in teacups, in broth, in a mother's gentle hand and a daughter's trembling smile. In 1916, the Pecks of Grand Rapids learned that evil doesn't always come roaring. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simmers. Sometimes it waits at the dinner table. And sometimes the deadliest thing in the room is trust itself. Now, how about that crazy story?
Well, that is some tea about some tea, and I like how the doctor added the sweets to the sweet tea, but that wasn't the kind of sweet tea that I like. I think that was bananas. Why the daughter, which was the wife of the guy that they were poisoning, why she was the accomplice and the mother-in-law was actually the murderer.
Well,
or attempted murderer, I should say, because this guy survived. Because he's got a tolerance of a bull.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, lucky for him, man. He does not fall easily. But yeah, the mother absolutely hated this guy because she wanted her daughter. She was like, oh, my daughter can do way better than this dude. Let's get him out of here. And poisoning isn't a messy mess.
Like, the daughter knew full well what was happening?
She knew full well what was happening. She participated in it. She wanted out of the marriage. So, hey, let's kill him.
Yeah, but I still don't understand why she was the accomplice and the mother was the murderer. Just because the mother... Oh, this is tongue twisters. Just because the mother, got in touch with Dr. Sweets to get the drugs, which, by the way, note to self, if I ever want to murder somebody by poison, I'm just going to act like I am practicing without a license instead of murder.
Yeah.
Because he got away scot-free on a technicality.
Yeah, he did. But again, right? But again, it's the 1900s. I don't think you get away with that shit these days. They'd be like, nope. He'd be doing jail time.
It was the 19-teens.
Mm-hmm.
So that was of a time where, you could buy opium in the drugstore and you got cocaine in your Coca-Cola. So, granted, it was a different time. And obviously, because this guy, the husband, he survived all of that drinking and drugging where he should have been dead as a doornail after a couple of sips. I mean, chloroform, just that alone in the tea, you would think that would knock him out.
I know. I never heard of anybody drinking chloroform, right? It's just something you always see in the movies where they put it on a rag and they put it over your face and it takes you down. I wonder if you could just do that and hold it there for a really long time.
This story actually made me realize maybe chloroform is really only noxious like that when it's kind of being in a gas form. Because, like you said, you would pour it on a napkin, the liquid onto a napkin, but then you would inhale the vapors, which is technically gas, like fumes. So maybe chloroform is a fume-based thing, but they didn't know that back then in 1913 or whatever the hell this happened. Like, maybe they thought chloroform knocked you out, so if you drank it, it's the same as if you huffed it. But I think only huffing it will knock you out, because he was just fine finishing that tea.
Yeah. He's a tough old bird.
And the other thing is, every time he left the house, he would start to feel better. And then as soon as he came back to the house, he'd start feeling like he was on death's door again. Hello, McFly. Why didn't you figure that out sooner?
I know. Let's put two and two together. You eat her food, you get sick. You don't eat it, you're all right.
Yeah, like none of that really made sense to me. So he wasn't the brightest bulb in the batch.
Yeah.
But he definitively was stocky. He was a hardy breed.
He had to have been.
It took a lot to take him down, but he wasn't really that bright.
That's right.
Apparently.
That's right. Oh, Stanley.
Yeah.
Yep. So, crazy ass story. It was huge back in the day. Huge. So, yeah, that's the pop mark on Grand Rapids. Poisoning of the Pecks.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. As always, we appreciate you. And don't forget to give us a like, share, and subscribe. And listen, if you're listening to us on a platform where you can leave us a positive review, please do that. It would help our show exponentially. So again, we thank you so much. Have yourself a great week, and we will see you all back here on Wednesday for Round Robin. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.